the support of 78% of Americans who favor 2 weeks of early voting, a very important provision in this bill, and 83% of voters who support public disclosures of all contributions. We will take it back again from those who are trying to take away people's constitutional right to vote. With over 400 bills introduced in nearly every state to limit the freedom to vote, we can't simply sit back and watch our democracy be threatened again. Whether it is threatened with bear spray and crowbars and axes, or long lines, or the elimination of ballot boxes, or the secret money, it is still under siege. When we are faced with a coordinated effort across the country to limit the freedom to vote, we must stand up and do what is right. Sometimes people say, what is going on? It worked so well during the pandemic, during a public health crisis. More people have voted than ever before. Well, that is because they voted by mail. That has become some states, both blue state and red state, change their laws to make it easier to vote, while still protecting the sanctity of the vote. So why is this happening? Well, I think our colleague, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, put it best when he said, some people don't want some people to vote. We will not stand for that, because that is not how a democracy works. Leader Schumer has said he will bring this new bill to a vote as soon as next week, because we know our democracy cannot wait. This bill builds on the framework put forward by Senator Manchin in June and includes many of the key reforms in the For the People Act, guaranteeing all Americans, as I noted, access to at least 15 days of early voting, including weekends. Look at what just happened in Georgia. We just had a field hearing down there with the Rules Committee. In Georgia, all of a sudden they passed a law that said, yeah, you can vote on weekends early on, but when it counts in a runoff period in those last 28 days, you can't vote on weekends anymore. That's only done for one reason: to make it harder for people to vote. That's why this bill is so important. What else does it do? Ensuring all voters can cast a mail-in ballot and make it easier to register to vote. That is pretty important as we see Republicans, Democratic, independent voters all across this country wanting to be able to cast mail-in ballots. Safest way for so many of them to vote, even today. Some states even require them to get a notary signature in the middle of a pandemic through a glass window when they're in the hospital. You wonder why we want to have some federal minimum standards in place. What else? Increased transparency through the Disclose Act. I already noted 80%, over 80% of people in this country want to see that, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents. It would require super PACs and issue advocacy groups to disclose donors who contribute more than $10,000 and stop the use of transfers between organizations to cloak the identity, to hide the identity of the source of those contributions. It would counter partisan interference in election administration and protect election officials, because not only do we need to make sure people can vote, we need to make sure their vote is counted. It would prevent voter purges by requiring states to use objective and reliable evidence to remove voters and prohibit the targeting elections. The freedom to vote is fundamental to all our freedoms. Protecting it has not always been easy. Throughout our country's 245-year history, we've had to course correct and take action to ensure that our democracy, for the people, by the people, actually lives up to its ideals. Voting is how Americans control their government and hold elected